Once again, good morning to you all. We want to welcome you all to our webinar workshop this Thursday morning. And we appreciate you waking up and spending just a small part of your day with us. My name is Brian Griffin, a marketing assistant here at Messer Financial Group. Many of you are already familiar with us, but in case you don't know, we are an FMO located in Mint Hill, North Carolina. We started with just two agents, now serving 20,000 plus agents across 40 states, and we are still growing. So today we're going to be learning about Molina Medicare in South Carolina, their expansive network of hospitals and groups, the depth of the DSNP benefits, and the overall reason why Molina is the Medicare partner you want in South Carolina. So today we are lucky to have Kevin O'Connor walking us through this. Kevin started in the insurance business in 2006, and he has worn many hats during that time. Started out as an appointment setter in a call center, graduating to a licensed agent, then pre-licensing instructor, quality and compliance manager, sales manager, and now lucky for us, broker channel manager. So this man has walked more than a mile in all of our shoes, and we're very glad to have him with us today. He is a father of two and a husband of one, and he says he loves living in South Carolina. So before we do get started, a few housekeeping rules. We're going to be holding all questions until the end of his presentation. If you do have questions, just type them in the box on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll get to as many as we can at the conclusion of the presentation. So now, without any further delay, Mr. Kevin O'Connor.
Thank you, Brian. That was absolutely the most incredible introduction I've ever been given. I thank you also for taking the time to set this up and for having me. So he saved me the time of introducing myself, and I appreciate that. When we set this up originally, our world was a little different. So I've kind of had to switch gears a little bit. I'm gonna present what we were offering in South Carolina, and then at the end, since like I said, we've changed kind of, not even kind of, our world has changed. We're under some things that none of us have ever lived through, and we have to find a way to move forward. So at the end of this, I'll try to go through this fairly quickly. I have some other things I'd like to discuss with you about how we can continue to do business without being in people's houses and so on and so forth. I'm sure you've heard this from other companies. We're trying to create something that's streamlined and very easy for both the broker and for the client to use. So let me go ahead and just jump right into the product training. As you can see, this is me. Although if you look at me now, I look like a guy who has been stuck in quarantine for 3 weeks because I have literally taken it as such. But that's me clean. And there we go. So here's kind of what we're going to go over today. We'll go through the history of Molina, the enrollment periods, which will be reviewed for most of you. And then we'll go through our benefits, the pharmacy coverage, our Part D, the vendor administration, some broker resources for you all to access and contacts. And of course, we'll have questions and answers at the end. So let's start with the history of Molina. Molina was founded in 1980 by a doctor. He worked primarily with the disadvantaged folks that did not have access and decided that this is not the way it needed to work. So we provide the disadvantaged with access to high quality health care. The bottom line, and we all like to say this, is we serve the underserved. Well, anybody that's worked in the DSNP market realizes that this is what the objective is. The biggest difference is Molina, we started that way. We started as a Medicaid company and have grown into what we are today. We have operations in Marketplace as well as Medicare, which is the Medicare side is fairly new. Here is a little overview of where we stand from a fiscal standpoint. I'll spare you the details on that. And this is our national overview. As you can see, we're new here in South Carolina, and we're also new in Ohio. Just to give you an idea of our growth and our footprint. We have 214 total Medicare counties as of 2020, and we intend to grow again next year. And as you can see, in South Carolina, we have 43 of the 46 counties. So our intent is to be in all of them for next year too, but can't promise that, and I haven't seen anything like that, but we're hoping. Enrollment periods. Okay, so first of all, duals. Who are eligible? Who are dual eligible? Well, beneficiaries who enroll in both Medicare and Medicaid. Well, this is pretty obvious to all of us. We know that. And the one thing about South Carolina is there's a high population of dual eligibles. It is a more vulnerable subset of Medicare beneficiaries, and it is a mix of 65 and older and 65 and under if on disability. They typically have more health care needs, which again, we all know, behavioral health, addiction, chronic illness, or accident, and they have less financial resources for health care, have a greater need for support, and self-referring population. So most of this is for those of us who have been in this field, this market, the dual demographic, we all understand this very well. If you're new to this, these are very important aspects to remember as you're trying to present to a prospect that falls under these guidelines, because they are going to have these things. And this is why our plan, the Molina plan, is geared towards things like this. We offer help for all of this stuff, so on and so forth. Who is eligible for Medicare, dual eligible special needs plans? Look, I won't go into this a whole lot, because you all know you have to have Medicare and you have to have Medicaid. Now, the advantage to our plan is that you can be SLMB or up. It's one plan. The catch is, and for anybody that's sold a plan in South Carolina that is for a SLMB, you know that our Medicaid, our Healthy Connections, does not have a tracking system for those folks. So what we use is that award letter. When they first become eligible for their Part B assistance, where they pay their Part B, they get a letter that says that's what they get. That's what we use for that process. So if you run into a client that is not full, but could still use the help, because the plan is strong in that regard. And for those of you that have already seen enrollment kits, you know that they do the range of co-pays and co-insurances. For a full dual, obviously everything's going to be at zero, and we'll get into that here in a minute. This here, again, is just review. I'm sure you all are well aware of the enrollment and the SEPs for duals. They changed the law, as you know, last year. Used to be a dual could enroll, they could change their plan every month. Now it's a little different, which works well for us as agents, because once we get the enrollment, then they're in long enough for us to get paid for the enrollment. So that's a nice feature. Here is our service area. Like I said, we have every county. We are only lacking Cherokee, Lancaster, and Oconee. I believe this is Oconee, Cherokee, and Lancaster. Again, our intents are to grow into those counties, but for now, they are not a part of our service area. So unfortunately, especially for those of you that live up there in Charlotte, Lancaster is not a part of it. So this is just a highlight. And everybody that is interested, I have a full list. I like to give up what we call a hot sheet for our hospital systems. I find it easier. That way you can just quick reference, boom, we got it. But this is just a quick overview of what they consider the highlights. McLeod used to be a real big highlight, but now they pretty much go with everybody. MUSC, that right there is the magnet for our state. Palmetto Health, Roper, St. Francis, and then AdMed. For those of you familiar with Anderson County, this is a big deal. And if you do work Anderson County, you are going to be very successful with this Molina plan. And same for those who do work the McLeod area, the Florence area. we have the providers strong down that way. Okay, here is the basic layout. Again, I'm not going to waste your time. If you've sold a D-SNP in the past, you know exactly what this is. It's $0 for your premium, and they're going to have $0 out-of-pocket expenses for all of their services as long as they're covered under this plan. You'll see here this OTC. I won't go into this here because I have a separate slide for that. This right here is a high selling point along with the transportation. But again, I have a slide going here in the next few that I'll go into that. Like I said from that earlier slide, where we help the issues we know that this demographic is going to have, and here are some of the ways we do that. We have an opioid treatment services. This unfortunately has become a part of almost every MAPD plan out there these days. It's one of the things that's plaguing our society right now is the opioid addiction, and our seniors are not immune to it. The funny thing is, a lot of times it's not looked at as the same because, their doctors prescribing them, whatever the case may be. So for those who need it, it's available. Of course, health management plans, health promotion programs, smoking cessation, nurse advice line, 24/7 trained nurses. This is one of the most underutilized for all the plans that I've ever represented. This is a grossly underused service, and it's one of those things I've often wondered. And with the world going the way it is right now, I have a feeling that this service is going to come in, is going to grow big time. We've also added teledoc, and I'll get into that as well. And then, of course, nutritional and dietary counseling. So here are the vendor. This is a vendor hot list here. Delta Dental. So our benefit for dental in South Carolina is less than some. It's equal to most, but there are a couple that offer more of an allowance. So what makes us different and, in my opinion, better is the Delta Dental Network. For anybody that's ever used, Medicare dental networks, Liberty. I'm going to use Liberty. Not that I have an issue with Liberty, but it's the one that came to my head. Their network is small, it's tight. Delta there's not an issue with that. So they get the $1,500. They get to see a Delta Dental network dentist, and they get dentures. Moving along to vision, fairly standard in this market. $300 for glasses. It's less than some, more than others, but $300 will buy you some good glasses, and of course a $0 exam for those glasses. And now, like I mentioned earlier, the over-the-counter benefit. The over-the-counter benefit, we give $325 per quarter with a carryover. This is what makes this even more attractive, because this is pretty standard in South Carolina for an over-the-counter allowance, is a $325 mark. What we have done is we will allow them to carry that over through the entire year. Now, as an agent, this is one thing that I would actually call back my clients and, help them with this, remind them of this, because this is an incredible benefit and they should use it. So I feel like that has become more relevant these days. I think people are using it more, and that's a good thing, because that way we can keep it as a part of the plan. We use Hear USA for hearing aids. You get a hearing test, fitting 2 pre-selected hearing aids per calendar year. It's pretty simple, pretty standard. And emergency response devices. Again, as I like to hark back to my experiences in the field. Last year, I was still in the field, and I was doing sales, and the company I work for offered the same device. I always kind of took it for granted. I never really thought it was a high selling point. I just thought it was neat for certain people, but I found that it was very attractive to people in this demographic. So I started presenting it, and it actually pushed me over the top in several situations. In fact, I had the best AEP I've ever had last year. Not saying it's all because of this. I'm just saying that was something I never did before. Highlight this, and I did last year, and it worked quite well. And then annual physical exam. One of the biggest points of confusion is everyone thinks when you see that annual well visit that it is a physical. It is not. So what happens is people call up and say they want a physical, thinking that their well visit is physical, and they get billed for a physical. So we have included an annual physical exam as opposed to a well visit. Now, they still get their well visit when they join Medicare, but this is an annual physical exam. And then 48 one-way trips every calendar year. This is a new slide. Again, you know, when me and Jeff and Justin and Brian were setting this up, we were not under the conditions that we're currently under. We have had Teledoc for a minute, but what we have done is we've built it up. We now offer it for $0, of course, through the pandemic. It's convenient, 24 hours. And for those of you, here is the information that you'll need for this. This is a good selling point if you are, doing. If you're still actively working through this pandemic, this is a great selling point. And for those of you that are, at the end of this, I'll kind of touch on some of the methods that we're using for doing enrollments without leaving your house, because at this point, I'm not sure what, I know that in South Carolina, as of yesterday or the day before yesterday, we are on a stay-at-home, rule, unless you're essential. Here are the vendors. I've kind of touched on them. Fitness coaches it's actually owned by Healthy and Fit. It's a pretty neat program. You can go to their website and check them out. Access to Care is our transportation, Vision, Convey, Care USA, and Delta. Pharmacy. Okay, I will not spend a whole lot of time on this because you all know how this works. So the D-SNP formularies contain the top 10 generic medications Medicare beneficiaries ask for. 7 of them are in Tier 1 and 3 are in Tier 2. Well, with our population, since they're Medicare, Medicaid, and they're going to have LIS. So figuring out their payments for prescription drugs is very simple. All you got to do is verify that they're actually in the formulary. And then 98% of the most prescribed drugs for Medicare beneficiaries are covered in our formularies. The pharmacy. We'll see here that Molina has down-tiered 8 non-opioid pain medications in their D-SNP formularies. It was kind of odd to me with the rise in the opioid issue. The non-opioid pain medications were always they were higher-tiered drugs. So we have tried to do our part and lowered those, 8 of them anyway, into a lower tier. Molina has 2 medications that require step therapy. This one surprises me. I believe that is Nexium. So I'm not sure why it requires step therapy, but that's what it says. And I have no idea what tolterodine is. But it also requires step therapy. Smoking cessation items are available in our OTC catalog, which brings me to another point. Our OTC catalog is wonderful. It's big, and it's got very good pictures. My company I worked with last year, they upgraded their catalog to include some pictures, but prior to that, it was literally just the words on paper. So, we know our demographic. Pictures help. So, and this is very in-depth. It has a lot of what you would find at a durable medical equipment shop, like high-rise toilet seats, so on and so forth. Members can get these at no cost to the OTC OTC benefit. And Molina is working with our members. Approximately 50% of requested non-formulary drugs have been approved. So if you come across a situation where one of your prospects is like, I'm not changing that drug, or let's say they're already a member and they call you, because as you know, brokers, we want that rapport. We want to have built that relationship to where they call us first. You can go through the process. Now, obviously, their doctor will ultimately be the one that does the formularies, to request the formulary adjustment. Like, the word is escaping my head right now, but we want to work with our members. We want to make sure that they're getting what they need. So that's that. Part D. Again, any of you that, if you're new to the business and you aren't familiar with this, here it is. And by all means, I'm going to leave my contact information with you. And I also do some webinars that I'll send out to Brian to invite all who are interested, that are just basic, let's get into LIS, or let's dive into Medicare 101. Just sometimes you need a refresher since things change all the time. But I'm not going to go over this. I'll leave this here for just a second and keep talking. So if you guys want any of the information, you can see it. But I believe that like I said, if you've been in this field at all, then you know how this works. LIS. Almost all of our D-SNP members have some level of LIS or extra help to help lower their Medicare Part D. In my career, every single Medicaid member I've ever come across, except for one, had LIS, and I couldn't figure out why he didn't have LIS. To this day, I have no idea why he didn't have LIS. I have no answers for that. I didn't even think it was possible until that day. MAPD members can also apply and may receive extra help. So we already know that. What this means to the member when they go to the pharmacy is reduced or no deductibles, reduced or no copays during initial coverage. Member will continue to pay copays, coinsurance through the donut hole. Once catastrophic coverage levels are met, member will pay zero out of pocket. The other thing that isn't covered here is if they have a late enrollment penalty, LIS will they don't waive the penalty, they delay the penalty until you are no longer eligible for LIS. So, but we all know that the majority of people that become eligible for LIS remain eligible. Deductible by plan, again, I'm not going to go through this. This is a D-SNP plan, so your deductible is paid by your LIS. Now, again, if you come into that one guy that doesn't have LIS with Medicaid, you'll want to figure that out. And like I said, I have no answers to why that would ever happen. So this is vendor administration for medical. Show their Molina card. This is simple. If they go to a doctor, to the hospital, they just show their Molina card. Now for dental, they will get a separate Delta Dental card. The members do not need to present their plan ID card. They just show the Delta card to receive treatment. And here's another thing that it is important. We are the experts. When we go out to talk to our prospects, we have to educate them. It's not up to us to educate the providers, because everybody that's done this knows that there are times when you find a doctor and then the prospect will call their doctor, and the gal at the front desk will say, oh, we don't take Molina, or we don't take Allwell, or we don't take whoever the heck it is that you're selling. So we know better, and of course, in those situations they'll call you. But what you need to do is to educate your prospect to say we have Delta Dental, not that we have Molina Healthcare Dental, which is a lot more difficult. It's a lot easier said than done. I have experience with that from my years with Centene. You can't tell them to present. Can't say, hey, go in there and say, this is your, my insurance is Centene. They'll be like, what are you talking about? We don't take them, or whatever. So it is up to us to educate our prospects that it is a Delta Dental. You are a Delta Dental member. Medical, dental, hearing, and vision. Show your Molina ID card. So again, this is kind of a redundant slide here. Your Molina card will get your medical. I'm not sure why we put the dental in there, but because you don't, you show your Delta card. Over the counter, you just call the number or check the website. Most of us realize that I would say 70 to 80% of our population does not do the internet, or maybe that's a little high. Maybe it's a little less than that. But to transportation is also, you just call the vendor to schedule a ride. Fitness, again, call the vendor, or you can get a home fitness kit, or you can select a fitness center to go to. Meals, call Molina Member Services. Now, this meals program, I didn't put it in the slideshow. They actually are approved once being released from the hospital to get up to 52 meals. It's a nice added benefit. I fear that it won't get utilized a lot, but for those that do need it, it'll be a very valuable benefit. Excuse me, guys, I got the hiccup. Okay, and then of course worldwide emergency coverage. You just have to submit the claim to Member Services. You get a flu shot, you visit your PCP or network pharmacy and show your Molina card. And I've already talked about the nurse advice line. And we also have health management, health management, nutritional / dietary, health promotion. You just call Member Services. Broker resources. These are important things. The electronic enrollment, which I'm not gonna do the whole presentation because it takes a while, and honestly, I'd love to give you guys a little bit of your time back. Hopefully, we have a handful of questions so I can kill some of that time. But our enrollment system, for those that don't know, is DRX. We have free online training and support available. You can call your broker support unit, but here's what I would advise. Call me, because I'll do either a one-on-one. I set up some classes to teach, because part of this, I will teach you the DRX system itself, but we'll teach you how to do an enrollment through DRX to remain compliant and not have to be in front of your prospect. Like I said, in today's world, this is really important. We all want to keep making a living, and honestly, we're kind of blessed that we are in the career that we have chosen, because we are able to keep working, but we can't leave our house, so we have to get creative. And then eligibility requirements on the MolinaHealthcare.com website, and the broker support unit, which I will give you their contact info here in a second. So we have the provider online lookup. Okay, so full disclosure, we're trying to streamline this a little. It's a little bulky, but it does have the doctors in it that you need to find. So it's just a process. It works well, but I would advise you to go in there and just practice it for a minute, because I don't know why it is the way it is. It's just bulky, for lack of a better term. Formulary lookup tool is also available on the MolinaHealthcare.com website. Kit ordering and materials, simple. You can email the broker support unit, or you can actually call them. Email is definitely the quickest way, but ultimately the quickest way to get answers is to call this guy. For whatever reason, that's not my number. It's 843. I don't know. I can't correct it from here, so I don't know how that happened. But my phone number is 843-408-6650, and this is my email address. And I encourage all of you who are interested in learning more about, learning more specifics about the enrollments through the virtual process, to send me an email or to give me a call. Remember, it's 843, not 543. We'll set something up, whether it's one-on-one or I'll set up a WebEx or something, because like I said, we don't need to stop working. There are still people out there that need our help. So my objective is to keep everybody safe and to keep everybody, making a living. For those of you who are not certified yet, this is just really a brief overview. You sign your 2020 contract, complete 2020 certification, and boom, you're ready to sell. It's not quite that easy. You have to receive an invitation to complete certification from Molina, and that will come from Messer Financial. And you will upload your AHIP certificate, and you will complete the Molina certification exam. You'll sign attestation, complete certification, and then you're ready to sell. Now, in between there, which we don't talk about, is there's a background check, of course. There's some other things that we do that are pretty standard for this process. So it could take 10 days. It just depends how quickly you do your AHIP. The beauty of it is if you've already done AHIP, you just have to upload the certificate and take the Molina product training, which is really easy. Some key contacts. There's my correct phone number, and here's the broker support phone number. So I highly recommend calling them. First of all, they're incredibly nice. And second of all, they're incredibly helpful. So if you need kits, if you need over-the-counter catalogs, we have plan overview booklets. There's just a bunch of stuff that you can get from them. They're super helpful. They also will help you if you need to find Medicaid eligibility or pretty much everything that you need that is above me will come from them. It's always a safe bet to call me first because I will point you in the right. If I can't give you the answer, I will point you in the right direction. Usually I can give you the answer, but when it comes to ordering stuff, I don't do that. They will do that for you. It's quite simple. So that being said, that's really it. Now we're going to answer some questions here in a second, but I do want to touch on the fact that we have two options. Let me rephrase that. We have one option right now, and we are about to release a second option to do enrollments from the safety of your house. Again, I can't emphasize enough how important it is for us to keep each other safe, but especially the demographic that we're working with. We are dealing with the most vulnerable group of people in the country. So it is, but that doesn't mean that their needs stop and that their help needs, they don't need help anymore. It just means that we need to protect them. So we currently have one option, and the second option is going to be released hopefully earlier than later next week. The one option that's available right now involves, it's an e-enrollment that involves sending emails to our clients. Well, you know as well as I do that about 20% of our clients use email. So we are the experts. We are the professionals. So if you come across a client that really needs this, we have to find a way to get this to them. What I have done in the past with folks that needed emails, I've actually set it up for them. And I'm not saying set up an email for them because some of your people the most technology they have is a flip phone. But there's options through family members, so on and so forth. You guys know your clients better than anybody. If this option is not something that'll work for them, you know that it's not going to work for them. Some people, there is no level of technology that you can try to share with them that is going to benefit them. So obviously, you have to use your judgment in that situation. But for those that can use it, it's literally it's the same enrollment tool that we use. Then there's an option to send them to the consumer website. The whole time you'll be on the phone with them. So you literally walk them through the whole process without leading them into the answers, of course. But it's the same thing we all know. Do you have end-stage renal disease? Blah, 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 blah. If you're leading them into those answers, then there's something else wrong with it. We won't go down that road. But so that's that option. Now, the option that we're working on now, and we are hoping to have out by the beginning of next week, is a full telephonic compliant option that still allows the brokers to get full credit for the enrollment. And basically, where we're at with it now is we're getting ready to do beta testing, and like I said, it should be out next week. The long and short of it is, you get your client on the phone, you do the presentation, you do everything, and then you will make a call with your client to the call center to complete the enrollment. Now that is a super abbreviated version of what is really going to happen, but our objective is to have the most streamlined process and still remain compliant, because you know and I know that we want as little responsibility put on the prospect, because it's a very quick, a very easy way for them to lose interest. So the long and short of it is, our objective is to have a one-stop shop. You work the initial meeting with the prospect. You complete the actual sale so that you have them ready to go, and then you will take them with you to a telephonic or a call center where we have a staff waiting there, and you'll go through as it sits now, we're trying to get it to work through Calidus, and that's for those who don't have Calidus. You will learn once you get contracted, you'll get a Calidus account. So there's not much else I can say to that other than our objective is one stop, no scenes. We do not want them to have to call back, or for us to have to call them back, or whatever. We want it to be start to finish, one phone call for the prospect. So that being said, as soon as that's out, I will of course reach out to Brian or Jeff or Justin or whoever needs to get it to get that information into your hands. And I'll probably try to set up some WebEx meetings for individuals in this meeting that are interested. So that being said, I have nothing else. Again, I thank you all for your time, and I welcome any questions.
Yeah, Kevin, thank you so much. I appreciate you going through all of that information, especially what you just went over concerning our agents being able to go through the call center. Just like you said, anything that's going to make the process a little bit easier for our clients is definitely going to be a win. So I appreciate you going through that. So we do have just a few questions here that I want to make sure that we go through, and then we'll go ahead and get things wrapped up. So actually, two questions here from Rebecca. She says, "I heard they pay zero for drugs," is the first one. So when you were, I believe she submitted that during your DSNP portion.
Okay. So is the question, do they pay zero for drugs?
Yes, sir.
They pay zero for tier 1 drugs. All tier 1 drugs are $0. Everything else is based on their level of LIS. So the most they will ever pay for any drug would be the $8 and change that comes with LIS. So I'll use the drug Trulicity, for example. Trulicity is an $800 retail drug. The most they would pay for that is $8 and I can't remember what the top tier of the LIS is, but it's $8 and some. But so tier 1 drugs are $0. Everything else falls into the LIS structure.
Okay. And her next question is, she's asking about the network. She says, "How good is the network?" I know that you went over the groups and hospitals, so I'm not exactly sure how you would even answer that question, but I let you take a shot at it.
I have an answer. Here, this is an easy answer. I've worked for 2 different carriers in South Carolina. This is the strongest provider network I've ever been a part of in this state.
Wow.
We have all of the major. The only lacking, I'll just tell you where we're lacking. The reason we don't have Lancaster County is because is it MCHS? I think is the hospital up there. We aren't contracted with them, and then the only other weak point is that we have not contracted with Lexington yet.
Okay.
So other than that, we have McLeod, we have Augusta. I mean, we have Waccamaw, which nobody has. Waccamaw doesn't want to work with anybody. So we have. It's really impressive, especially if you look down the coast. Our provider network is as strong as anybody's, and then up through the PD. I call it the PD region. I don't know if you all know it as the PD region, but along the PD River into Florence, Marlboro, Dillon, all that stuff could not be any stronger. And then over to Anderson, Anybody that wants to work Anderson and or Florence and or Charleston, all up and down the coast, you're going to make money working this product. Lexington Medical Center, listen, I'm not a sugarcoater. Lexington Medical Center causes a problem. I am pushing regularly to get that contract to go through. The only other issue we have, which is a temporary issue, is Greenville. Prisma, when they did their merger, we were in the process of contracting. Well, most of us know what happened there. They've overextended a little bit, and they had to lay off hundreds of people. So that has just kind of been put on the back burner, but it absolutely will happen sooner than later. So other than that, Lexington is really the only issue. The problem with that is that it affects both sides, Richland and Lexington County. So again, I'm pushing hard for that. Outside of that, I will send, if you all reach out to me with, just send me an email. I have some hot sheets that I'll send out that have the list of every hospital that we use in here, so it spares you the time of going to our provider lookup. And then it also has some other information on it too, but I created it because as an agent, I wanted a quick reference guide. If I'm in a territory and they're like, I go to such and such a hospital, I can just go, boom, there it is. And it's an alphabetical order, so I made it nice and easy. So,
Yeah, and you sent me you sent me some information that and I don't know if it's as extensive as what you're talking about, but you did send me some information as far as hospitals and groups. I'm not sure if that's what you're talking about, because I'm going to send that out to our attendees also at the end of this.
Was it a spreadsheet, or was it a part of a slide that I sent?
Well, you sent me two different things. You sent me a PDF and a spreadsheet.
Okay, yeah, the spreadsheet is probably what I'm talking about. It should have a whole list of hospitals on it.
Okay, I'll make sure that I get that out.
Okay.
Okay. And then also, I guess along the same lines about the doctors within those networks. Would you say that that's more than adequate?
Absolutely. General rule of thumb is if they are a physician, and it's not an association, it is an actual. So I'll use Roper St. Francis, for example. They're down here by me. I'm down in the Charleston area. If they are a Roper physician, not saying that they have hospital rights to Roper, but I'm saying if they're an actual Roper physician, they're in the network. So if they're fully affiliated with a specific hospital system, they will 9 times out of 10 be in the network. So that being said, based on the strength of the hospital network, our provider network is incredibly strong.
Excellent. And then next question, do you foresee Molina moving to Medicare moving to North Carolina anytime soon?
I listen, that's way above my pay grade. If it was up to me, we'd absolutely go into North Carolina, because that's kind of the next hot spot. We went to Florida, and now South Carolina is the big hot spot for all carriers, and North Carolina is becoming that next spot. The what they call it, the halfbacks, the folks that think they want to go live down in Florida, realize it
Right.
costs $60 billion, and then they come back to South Carolina. Well, now South Carolina's getting that way, and they're coming up to North Carolina. And I'd like to say, and this is speculation on my part, there's no facts to this, that we will be looking into North Carolina in the very near future.
Excellent. And just we did get one question that I'm actually going to answer from Mike. Mike, this recording is going to be on messerfinancial.com in our learning center, so you'll be able to listen to it again if there's anything that you did miss. One last question here about the over-the-counter, and I know that you did go over this concerning the $325 allowance, and you said that it carries over. So does that mean it would be 325 times 4?
Yeah, the long and short of it is you get a budget for the year. Now, having said that, if you want to spend more than $325 in the first quarter, you can't. But let's say you don't spend any in the first quarter and you go to the second quarter, you have 650 to spend, and so on and so forth. So the ultimate, it's $1,300 per year.
Very good. Very good. Well, Kevin, I appreciate your time this morning. You went through a lot of information, and everyone, I'm sure, learned a lot. Once again, I want to thank everyone for taking time out of your morning to join us. Hopefully, you did learn something new that's going to help you in your business. If you are not appointed with Molina, it only takes a few minutes to go into Sure LC, our online contracting portal, and request the appointment. If you have any additional questions about contracting, please feel free to contact our producer support department at 866-568-9649, extension 7813, or email them at producersupport@messerfinancial.com. They'll be happy to assist you. Also, take a few moments to check our events calendar at messerfinancial.com. We'll be having webinar workshops scheduled throughout the year with valuable information, just like Kevin shared with us. Once again, I want to thank everyone for taking time out of your day for joining us. And please take care of yourselves and everyone around you. Thank you all. Have a great day.